Yeah.
Okay. Welcome to a statewide marketing plan for agritourism, starring Tara Piera, Executive Director of Vermont Fresh Network. Tara, do you have anybody else with you, or you're leading the charge today?
Yeah, I have a couple of folks that I'm going to be calling out to.
Okay.
Jillian of Banneken Travel and Tourism, who we're working with. And also I'm going to do a little call out to Lisa Chase, because she has some really great data, set the tone data slides that I think would be helpful for folks to hear and see, of course. But and then I know some folks out there, and just so that you know, I'm going to be calling out to some of the people that I know out here to give me your quick answers. The other thing I will say this, I wanted to see whether we wanted to do breakout rooms or not, or we could also do round robin. I have a couple of little questions to ask folks, so we'll just see how it goes.
Okay. You do have Leslie Pelch is in our session. She's with Delaney, and she's our session host. So if you do want to do breakouts, just let Leslie know, and she can handle those for you. Oh, she just gave us a thumbs up too. And then just if the only real thing is if everybody can make sure that their Zoom name reflects who they are and their place of work, that would be at a minimum, that would be great. And that's another thing I forgot yesterday. And then as far as like Zoom agreements, all the meeting agreements are on the Farm to Plate website, and we're all very familiar with Zoom at this point. So, obviously raise your hand, just be respectful of others. And I think we'll have a great session. So, and let me know if you need anything, Tara. Like, I'll be here moderating. I could read the comments for you or whatever.
Yeah. Definitely take a look at comments, because I do welcome any just comments and questions. And we have 22 folks in the room. And so I think that, we'll see how it goes. And the 22, I don't think we necessarily need to do breakout rooms, but I definitely appreciate taking a look at chat and stuff like that. So
great. Well, welcome everybody. I'll turn it over to you now.
Okay, great. Welcome everyone. And I'll say thanks for signing up for this. Since we have, like I was saying, 22 folks in the room, I'm not going to go around the room to have you introduce yourself, but if you put it in chat, everyone can see who's there, and and that's what we'll see where people are from, basically. So I'm going to hit share my screen, and we will let me just get my, was that okay? Let me just, there we go. So I'm going to do, there is some slide work here. So just, I know we're at Zoom and people are tired of slides, but, I'll try to make it engaging, and I might have even a couple of jokes. Okay. So like, as I said, thanks for coming to this. My name is Tara Pereira. I'm the Executive Director of Vermont Fresh Network. Vermont Fresh Network, as you know, we're a nonprofit. We've been around since 1996, 25 years. And our basic mission is to strengthen connections between our farmers, our chefs, and our consumers. And we do that, through our agritourism. But anyway, this session will be to discuss our grant-funded work in developing a statewide agritourism marketing plan for Vermont to support farmers' agritourism efforts and to ensure that they translate into true economic gains for Vermont farms and rural communities and all those folks, that all of our stakeholders who work with farms and agritourism. And just so you know, if I look over to here, it's because I have my notes over here, and I'm not paying attention to y'all. So over the last few years, Vermont Fresh Network's major marketing focus has been on promoting Vermont agritourism with Dig in Vermont to both travelers within our state and visitors to our state. Our work with Vermont agritourism is part of a broader consumer education effort on where your food comes from. It's we want the public in an interactive way, whether it be experiential or on the web, or, we want the public to understand food production, farms, and what goes into that food production and our farms and our eateries, because Vermont Fresh Network and everyone else, on a Vermont scale. This platform was developed about 10 years ago. And I know there are some folks in the audience who were part of that initial development of this plan, but it was established as a kind of a landing base or a platform for collaboration across multiple organizations for the shared goal of strengthening agricultural and culinary tourism. And in general, we want folks to travel, eat, learn, experience, discover more of our state through the lens of food and farms. Whether it's the more populous areas, the more rural areas, there's definitely a lot of Vermont out there. And basically we do it through content of varying types. And let me just see here. Yeah, so, and it's in 2018, we did a big upgrade redesign. And since that time, it's grown. The interest in it has grown. Our website, well, I'll say like our newsletter from 2018 to now, it's grown to 6,000 subscribers or so. It continues to grow. We have about a 25 to 27% open rate, depending. And I'm nerding out on details here and data, and not a lot of churn. People sign up and they stay. I'll tell you one funny story. A month ago, we received an email from someone, and they had unsubscribed from the newsletter, and they emailed us to say, like, listen, I just want you to know we unsubscribed, not because we don't love Vermont or love the website, but I had signed up because we were traveling to Vermont. I don't think I've ever received an apologetic unsubscribe before. So I was like, don't worry, we're here when you are ready to come back and engage with us. So, that just shows that the love, basically, and I appreciate that. But, we have a number of collaborations, Open Farm Week, as you can see, our content, we are seasonally focused on our content, as we should, with food and farms, and we really try to engage folks and tell those stories and show, we work with our partners, those partner organizations, the Vermont Brewers Association, the Cheese Council, to NOFA, shout out to Andrew there, and to really tell the stories and in the season, like you can see, Thanksgiving is coming up. But I'll also say, in a note to our partners, winter market season is coming up soon, and you can find out more on both the NOFA website and Dig in Vermont. Now let me just step back just for a moment. So we're doing this. There are a lot of collaborations that go on this website, and there's a lot of different ways to educate about farms and food. And one of our main events that we host on the site is Vermont Open Farm Week. We partner with a number of organizations who are in the audience, Agency of Agriculture, Vermont Department of Tourism, UVM Extension, NOFA, Farm Education Network. Shout out to Vera out there. And to really put this event together, that 1 week in August. And I will say that, this is 2021 was its 7th year. We're going into its 8th year. And so as we all know, the last 18 months have been have felt like 30 years, basically. And in 2019, we were going strong with Open Farm Week. 2020 comes, and we came to a point, like, it took us a little while. Are we going to have it? Are we not going to have it? Are we going to have it? Not going to have it. And we ended up doing it, of course, because farm, there are different, you're outside, people want to get outside, let's experience farms. And farms, you still have to milk the cows, you still have to gather the eggs, or whatever your farm, and it's still going on, things are growing. And so we were creative in that way, that we just kind of like met farms where they were, we supported them. And I'll have to say, it was a bit more subdued in 2020, just the number of farms and where we were at that time. But 2021, it was back, like these numbers of 45 farm participants, over 100 events. That is more than, those are 2018 numbers, or it's actually more participation in 2021 than we had in 2018, 2019. So I think that just speaks to how things have gone on the last 18 months, and the renewed interest in what folks have had to do to change. And a number of the participants, I just want to make sure I'm not over talking here, but a number of the participants were brand new farms. They were saying, like, this is something I've always wanted to do, and I figured during COVID, I'm going to start a farm, which was great. And I also think that Open Farm Week shows the diversity of what all of our farms and what they can do, what they, from, and also collaborations, dinners on the farm, flower crown making, yoga, as you can see, and garlic braiding, and all sorts of things. So my next question for you, or my question for you, my initial one is, like, a lot of people travel for different reasons. And I travel for food. And this is a joke I made yesterday at Killington. I'm like, I hear there are people who travel for skiing, and that's their ski forward, but I travel for food first. And so I guess those skiing people after a wreck, but the point is that we all have different views of how we think about tourism, right? And I'm gonna wait a minute, where did it go? I lost it. Okay, so part of this effort basically is to part of this effort that we're doing, and why the statewide plan is 2019 we applied for this grant to, as part of it was to, like, the main goal of this grant, USDA grant, was to strengthen Vermont agritourism through many different ways. There's it's kind of a larger grant, and there are various different activities there, and developing a statewide marketing plan that we could all use is part of what that's why we're doing this. And why do we want to do, why, thank you, this is like my mom joke slide, but why do we need a statewide plan? Why? And I guess the question then I'll toss back to everyone, and I'm going to stop share for a second. I'm going to pause share. Did I stop my share? Okay, I'm going to stop it. And I guess my question is for all of you, right now, and we have 18 folks or 25 folks on the line here. And how do you define agritourism? And okay, I'm going to ask, and if you want, you can call out, or I can call out to you folks, because I'm interested in how you define agritourism. All right, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to call out Lindsay Brand. Are you there?
Hi, I am.
All right. How do you define agritourism?
I was anything that brings people to a farm for a purpose other than buying food. Whether that's an entertaining experience around buying food, like perhaps you can still have food buying be part of it, or an experience that has nothing to do with purchasing product at all. But I say this as someone who has, is largely outside of marketing agritourism. So I'm really curious to hear what other people think.
Oh, sure. Okay, well then let's talk to, let's see here. Who's next? I'm going to call out to Jen Colby. Jen Colby, Howling Wolf. How do you define agritourism?
I define it in lots of different ways. We actually define it at our place around food events where we cook for people or we teach people how to cook. We define it around on-farm experiences because we host. We currently have a yurt. We're working on a tenter site as well. So there are people who have an immersive experience. There are people who come for just short periods of time. And some of the stuff that we did for Open Farm Week this year included bringing in other people to do completely non-farming things in a farm experience. So that's a different kind of immersion too. We did an art event and we did a yoga event in addition to doing more like actual farming kinds of food events. So all of it.
Yeah. And as someone from, and I'm gonna call on more folks, as someone who's works with restaurants, Vermont Fresh Network, I'm restaurants who purchase from farms, who there's that connection there, right? If I'm at a restaurant, this is the larger umbrella talk of agritourism, but if I'm in a restaurant and they have their list of farms down the wall, and I can maybe visit them and maybe be like, oh, wait a minute, I bought, I had some apple dessert. And I'm like, wait a minute, they get it at Champlain Orchards. I'm going to go visit Champlain Orchards, like building those connections. But okay, so let's, is there anything else that folks want to talk about in regards to agritourism? Like, is there anything out there crazy that you're like, I think it's this?
Janet has her hand up.
Yeah. So when you asked for a definition of agritourism, what I've heard so far are activities that people do as part of agritourism, but I think of a definition of agritourism as something different. And I've had to do a lot of thinking about this because I just applied for a working lands grant and really had to force myself to think about what agritourism is. And I think that it is an opportunity to bring people to a place where they can see working lands, where they can see farming occurring in a way that is humane, sustainable, respectful of the land, and to build an appreciation for what Vermont's working lands can do. And it has to be different than regular tourism. So people can have a wedding venue and they can have a site where you can have meetings, and that's tourism, but it's not agritourism. And to me, the distinction is that we're doing it for the purpose of helping people become more appreciative of what farming does for our state and how it can be incorporated into recognition of the land that we are stewards of, and that people have a part in sustaining our ability to keep Vermont looking like it looks like. So I don't know if that helps, but I think it's very different than listing the activities, because the activities can be very different at every venue. But I think it's important for us to keep thinking about the difference between tourism and agritourism.
That's fantastic, Janet. I was very well said, and I was even gonna, that's a really nice segue, because I was actually gonna ask everyone, what is Vermont agritourism, right? What is agritourism? What is Vermont agritourism? And I mentioned it before that, and I know this is farm to plate, and we're talking food and farm, but there's a little, farms do other things, right? And all, we want to be able to educate about what makes, and, I was talking about food production or working lands on a Vermont scale. What does that mean? And so, there's a lot of different connections there. And I think that, to your point, Janet, is like building up that, like, there's a greater experience basically, and knowledge that we want to share with folks. And I think too that can build a stronger connection for visitors, and whether they come to stay in-state or even just travelers within the state. I'm a nerd, and not that this is nerdy, but like I'll travel, to check out the Brattleboro Farmers Market, and I live up in Chittenden County, or I'll try, there's all this, all these little ways of different farms, different places, different ways of considering. It's all unique to each community, and there's such a value in sharing all of that. And anyway, so let me get back to my share screen, and we'll keep going on that point. But I really, that's a really great way to think about it. So, okay. So clearly, there's a lot of Vermont to discover, right? And there's different ways to consider it. And by the way, I couldn't resist putting this little boy in here with the apples. He was we did a photo contest this year, apple photo contest, and he was one of the winning photos.
Sarah, can you go back into the slide?
Am I not?
Slideshow view. Yeah, you're in like just the.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you. Here we go. Let me go back. There's a cute little boy. As we can see, different ways of thinking about agritourism. So, and going back to it, there are a lot of stakeholders involved, right? And whether it be public sector, farms, cideries, and how do we all work together, right? And especially over this last 18 months, and by bringing everyone working together, we all have different perspectives on what we do. A farm may have different messaging that they want to put out there, producer, a service provider, different ways of considering it. And there's so much great crossover. I mentioned outdoor rec. Outdoor rec is a great way of, you can bring in food and farm. And I don't know if Lindsay from Acorn's here, but Tour de Farms is a great little matchup of outdoor rec and farms and learning and that sort of thing. Let me just get to my next slide here. Okay. All right. So how can we all work together? I have different hats here, as you can see. And we all have, part of it is like, there's so many folks involved statewide, or we all have, all these folks have skin in the game, let's say, right? So how do we all work together and utilize our network channels for further impact? And like working together, as you can see, like I have here, marketing impact, right? Increasing awareness, growing relationship connections between consumers and other businesses. The great way of, there's value in working together in a marketing sense, economic. When we by working all together, collaborative marketing gives value to food transparency system-wide. And if you want consumers to, let me just put down my chat here. I'm seeing them. If you want consumers to pay attention to the points that Janet was making about working lands and sustainability, then we need to all work together under a banner. If we have a shared, let me see. There we go. Shared perspective, shared quality. These are all little spots where there's crossover on many of us when we talk about agritourism or just food and farm tourism in Vermont. For Vermont Fresh Network, basically on Dig In anyway, to be on Dig In, you need to have, you need to be a member of those producer associations. So in essence, like for Vermont Fresh Network, we do verification. So restaurants on that site need to purchase at least 15% of their local total food cost needs to be purchased locally. And we verify that every year. And all of the associations have different criteria, but for value. And okay, so let me continue on here. I'm going to call out Lisa. Can you just do a little bit about, I have your slides up here. Can you set a little stage of agritourism and data and Vermont's place in the world? And I have your slides here, so you tell me when to switch.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes. So I was really excited when Tara asked that question about how do people define agritourism, because those of you who know me know I have spent far too much time thinking about that question and being in academia, working with others around the world on that question. So actually have a framework that we'll get to in a little bit, but first, let me talk a little bit about some of the research on trends in agritourism. This is a study that was published in 2019, so before the pandemic. And it looked at agritourism across the globe, and it did separate it into 5 categories. You can see on the right, bottom right of the screen: event and recreation, experience and education, and direct market. And it's interesting here to notice that direct market is a very small percentage of it, 18%. But there's sort of those 5 different categories, and it looked at global agritourism being approximately a little less than 6 billion and projected 12% growth annually, so that by 2025 we'd be at almost 13 billion. Now, of course, then the pandemic hit, and what's been really interesting to see is the impacts on agritourism. And while we don't yet have hard data from a global study like this, however, what we're seeing in Vermont and in other parts of the world as well, and around the country, is that certain types of agritourism, like I'm going to go visit a farm stay in Italy, or Beth Kennett at Liberty Hill Farm has guests coming from from far away. Those things had to be shut down. But other types of farm visits, farm education, farm experiences, like I'm going out for you pick or you cut Christmas trees. So the big events were shut down, the overnight farm stays, the long distance travel, that didn't happen, but the close connections with communities and the direct sales went through the roof. Can I have the next slide?
Oh yeah, of course. Let me just get here.
And so what I'll mention is that I think once we get the data on, once we can see the trend line for what happened to agritourism during the pandemic, and if we break it out into different segments, like direct sales versus overnight accommodations, we're going to see very different stories. But, we're going to see this like generally increasing trend, and then a little blip decrease during COVID. And then I can't say since COVID, because we're still during the evolving pandemic that's now becoming endemic. We are at a place where things are open and people are traveling again, and agritourism is going sky high. I've been hearing from Farm Stay USA that they're fully booked through 2022, and people are booking into 2023 already, because demand, once they were able to open up again, demand was so great because people are looking for these safe, healthy, rural experiences. So moving from a global perspective to Vermont, these data are from the USDA Census of Agriculture, and the last census was in 2017. So again, pre-pandemic, little dated. We will get more data in 2022. Well, the next census will happen in 2022, and then it'll be 2023 before we get the data, because this Census of Ag happens every 5 years. The Census of Ag is somewhat limited in how it collects information, in that there's 2 main questions that relate to agritourism. One says farms that provide agritourism and recreational services such as farm tours, hay rides, hunting, fishing, etc. And that's all it says. So if you're an overnight farm stay, a lot of them don't necessarily think of themselves here. And the direct sales is in a different question that asks about food, only food sold directly to consumers for human consumption. And it doesn't separate off-farm and on-farm. So as you can tell, if anyone's interested in geeking out about the data, I'm your person and happy to go into more detail. But the short story here is looking at statewide data. The best we have is this, well, some of the best information we have, especially looking at trends over time, is the Census of Ag that happens every 5 years. And in 2017, we had 186 farms say yes to agritourism and recreational services, and over 1,800 saying yes to direct sales. There could be overlap there. However, the way the actual revenues are measured, there's not overlap. So for example, if I have a vineyard and a winery and people come to my winery, I give them a tour for free. You know, they wander around, they look at the information, and then they come and pay for a tasting and purchase a case of wine. All that goes under direct sales, and it wouldn't be counted under agritourism. You pick, all under direct sales. My farm to table dinner, the product that I'm using for my farm to table dinner, all of that is under direct sales. So when we're combining direct sales and agritourism, we're at almost 52 million. And that was back in 2017. I'm gonna wager it's gone, when we see the numbers in 2022, it will be up quite a bit. And looking in the top right corner here, I wanna draw your attention to the fact, oh, thank you. Are you moving the mouse to help out, Tara?
Sorry about that. I didn't know that was like, I just.
Oh, no, it was working. Yeah, so looking at that pie chart where the mouse is, in Vermont, only 3% of that total is from the agritourism and recreational services. And 97% was from the direct sales of food. Contrast that to the slide we saw just before. On a global level, we're looking at, I think it was 18% was from direct sales, and over 80% was from the experience, the education, the pieces other than the direct sales. Can I have the next slide, Tara?
Of course. Here we go.
Oh, okay. So we don't have the what is agritourism conceptual framework in here?
No, I don't have that because
okay.
I didn't put. But if we can talk about the Vermont experience, Vermont compared to others in the United States, yeah.
Okay. When people were talking about how do you define agritourism, a multi-state team of extension colleagues put together a conceptual framework. And so I'm just gonna, for now, I'll focus on the data, but if we want to go back to how agritourism is defined in the US and around the globe, I can reflect on some of the research and some of the perspectives from around the world. Oh, that's okay. We can stick with this, Tara. I'm gonna move.
Okay, I was gonna try to. I was looking for it. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So since the USDA Census of Ag data is has limitations, we ended up doing a survey of farms that also asked a lot more questions. And this survey took place in, again, this one was right before COVID. It actually took place November 2019 to February 2022. So coincidentally, it ended right before COVID started. So we now have this really good snapshot of what agritourism looks like around the country. And we received almost 2,000 responses from farms, ranches, vineyards, aquaculture operations, different types of agricultural production operations from representing all 50 states. And we asked questions about not only what products and activities they do, but what are their motivations, what are their plans for the future, what their revenue is, what their profitability is, challenges, and what they're looking for in support systems. For this slide here, we pulled out the Vermont data. In Vermont, we had 222 responses from all 14 counties in Vermont, although they weren't represented equally. We had very few from Essex County and a lot more from Chittenden and Addison County. And right here on this slide is a comparison between what we heard from our Vermont farmers and the US information. So in terms of the categories of farm experiences, looking at those at 5 different categories, we see that on-farm direct sales is by and large the largest throughout the country, but also here in Vermont at 86%. And I am going to emphasize, so the way the survey worked is we asked the people who were allowed to participate in the survey were, any type of farm or agricultural production operation that had visitors on your farm for any reason. So off-farm direct sales were not included, but if it was something that wasn't necessarily so closely connected to agriculture, we still included it here. And we have, these are just 5 overarching categories. We do have the breakdown in terms of what people are doing underneath these categories. So, on-farm direct sales, how much of it is you pick versus a farm stand versus other types of activities. So here in Vermont, compared to the national averages, we're big on-farm direct sales and pretty good on lodging, with about over 20% of our farms responding to the survey offering lodging. Education, entertainment and events, and outdoor recreation are important in Vermont, but less important than other parts around the country. Could I have the next slide?
Of course.
So Becca Jordan asked, were hydroponics and hemp farms included? So this was, yes, as long as they had visitors. So if a hemp farm, if a hemp farm was open to visitors for some, any way, shape or form, or hydroponics, they were included. Looking at products by type, again, we've got a, when I'm done with this, I'll put a link in chat, and that'll send you, if you're interested in specific types of products, that will tell you, that will give you the specific breakdown. This is 3 major categories: crops, animals and animal products, and value-added products. And again, Vermont is green. And what I want to point out is these images here are somewhat representative of the amount. So for example, the maple leaf under crops, as you can imagine, maple's huge here in Vermont, but almost non-existent, this tiny little dot when we look at the US data. And of course,
Oh, I'm sorry. I clicked by accident, Lisa, and I get excited for the next slide. So sorry about that.
Okay. What was that if that was a subtle way to say wrap it up? I'll keep moving along here.
Right, no, please, sorry.
So one of the really interesting points here when we saw this data is Vermont, 73% of the farms that responded to the survey said, I grow some kind of crop. 54% said that nationwide. And remember, this is again the sample of farms open to visitors. Animal products, again, Vermont was way over the national average, 49%, when it was only a third nationwide. Value-added products, an even greater difference. 57% of our farms that answered the survey have some kind of value-added product, and that's only a third in comparison to a third for the farms around the country that answered this. So what was really struck me here is that our Vermont farms are so much more diversified. Because remember, every farm can check as many boxes as they want. And here in Vermont, our farms are so much more diversified than what we're seeing across the country. And we know, in some ways that's true on a general level. Well, it's especially true for these farms that are open to visitors. Could I have the next slide, Tara?
Yes. Oh, there you go.
So in the interest of time, I won't go into all of the nitty-gritty data, which I am very happy to share with you, individually or in other opportunities. But one of the really important questions we ask farms is, what are your major challenges and what kind of supports are needed for you? And here you see the top the top choices for both Vermont and the US. And once again, Vermont's green and US is the yellow. And the top choices, the top supports needed across the country and in Vermont were pretty much all related to marketing, social media, marketing and management. Now, that was, about half in Vermont and half across the country said that was a big need. When we jumped to like number 2 in the country, it was legal and liability information. But here in Vermont, it was a much lower number, with only about a third of the farms being concerned about legal and liability information. Now, I will mention this is pre-COVID. So these two of the things that were very important for farms around the country were the legal issues and the safety information. In Vermont, farms were, feeling pretty good about that stuff. COVID exacerbated that need, but the main point I want to make here is that the marketing for especially website management, that was the only support. And I will say we had a list of like 20 supports or more needed, plus people could write it in. Of all the supports that where Vermonters felt that they needed it more than the national average, website management was one of them. But for the most part, these marketing needs, marketing plan development, resources for the public on locating agritourism enterprises, Vermonters really need, our Vermont farms really need this information. And that is why I am really excited to hear about this statewide marketing strategy that Tara is working on along with Banneken. And I'll stop there.
We have a question here in chat, Lisa.
Okay.
Does anyone know if Vermont has a lower or higher than average incidence of legal and liability cases?
That is a good question, Pat.
You want to answer that in chat?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Andrew's taking it on. Okay, I'll let it go in chat. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'll feel free to drop questions. I'll put a link to, so in chat, in the interest of moving on, in chat, I'll put a link to where you can find lots more information about these reports. And you can also type chat questions in chat, and I will I'll try to answer them while we're moving forward here. And I'll also put my email in chat.
No, great. And I really recommend checking out the Agritourism Collaborative site at UVM. So much great information and data for the data folks. And anyway, and I also want to say, to the point of, we're going to introduce Banneken Travel and Tourism, Jillian, from there in a second, but I want to say that, and Vera, I see that you are on, but can you, we offered technical assistance in the run up to Open Farm Week. What would you say is the technical assistance most people ask for?
I would say event design. Oftentimes people have a very clear kind of picture of what they want, but kind of a couple steps around how to get there is what they're seeking some guidance on. But I would also say marketing, how to use social media to its fullest impact, and just kind of remembering some of the other tools that they are aware of, but haven't maybe used for a while. Even remembering to put it in a newsletter or something is something it can be helpful to remind folks of.
That's exactly what that's what I wanted you to say. So great. I was a good little softball to you. Okay. So anyway, like I was saying, we received this grant in 2019 that was pre-COVID about the need to strengthen, agritourism in a marketing sense and everyone working together. And that is why we brought on Banneken Travel and Tourism. Jillian, will you, can you talk a little bit about the project we're working with you on?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much, Tara and Lisa. That was really interesting and informative. It's so good to meet you. I'm Jillian. I'm with Banneken Travel and Tourism. And I'm just going to shut my video off just in case we have some internet issues, because I live in the countryside. I live north of you. I'm in Canada. I'm in Prince Edward County, and we're an agritourism region as well. And similar to some areas of Vermont. So this has been a wonderful experience to sort of get to know Vermont a little bit closer. And Banneken is, we're focused on travel and tourism exclusively as an agency, and we do integrated communications, which is marketing and media relations, and even travel trade development and content creation, branding, those things, and as well as strategic development in tourism. So helping tourism destinations become agritourism destinations, for example, through strategy and training. And we emphasize adventure, food, and culture. Those are the areas of tourism that we really focus on and we have expertise in. Several members of our team come from the Culinary Tourism Alliance, for example. So we're definitely a good bet to be working on a marketing strategy around agritourism. And it's just a pleasure to meet you. And please do go ahead and change the slide, Tara.
Okay. There we go.
And so the end goal really of this project is to develop a marketing strategy that will broaden target audiences' awareness and engagement with agritourism experiences in Vermont. The objectives do range from wide-reaching to tactical. Number one, to support the emergence and viability of Vermont's agritourism sector as a driver for economic growth. And to inform how DIG in Vermont should be utilized in a sustainable way to further Vermont agritourism goals and to cultivate collaboration. We've talked about that so far in a few of the slides beforehand, and to reflect a diversity of participants and experiences, and to use inspiring stories and artistic expression as a way, as well as transparent sharing of factual information to shift awareness, understanding, and behavior. The marketing plan creation the approach that we've taken, we're kind of in a funny time to be presenting on it because we've just finished you can go ahead and share or change the slide, but we've just finished our research, our data collection. We're kind of hugging the border between phase 2 and phase 3. So I don't have a lot of really super finalized information to share. So you'll just have to be on your edge of your seats for a little bit longer as the strategy comes to creation. But I'll go over what the approach was. The marketing plan took a four-phased approach. And it's quite a long project considering but that's because we took a little break in between at the end of July and into August for Farm Week, but also, yeah, that's a lot of the reasons why. And also
that's our fault. Our super busy time, and I just couldn't. I wanted to do all our focus on like Open Farm Week and our other work. So I just asked just for a little break in between all the work. So
also, it's not a really good time to be getting our stakeholders to talk to us in the summer months. So so we were able to split it up, and this has been a good well-paced project. So we spent a lot of time in phase 1 just doing background document review, reviewing Lisa's wonderful work with the data collection and the surveying in the past, reviewing past tourism marketing efforts, and doing a comparable brand analysis. The comparable destinations that we researched were destinations in Oregon, in the Hudson Valley, and in the Okanagan. And then primary research and engagement, so contacting and talking to people on the ground, the businesses, the organizations involved in marketing agritourism and marketing tourism generally in Vermont. We held a stakeholder workshop, which I'll get into some details around that. That was really about messaging, how to look at messaging differently. we held a consumer survey, sort of testing the waters about being able to survey consumers specifically about agritourism, which is fairly new to be doing in Vermont. And then a virtual site visit. So given the border closures at the time, et cetera, we weren't able to, although we were planning to visit Vermont directly, we weren't able to, but we were able to do something I think that has been really informative, a virtual site visit and a bunch of secret shopping experiences where I've had the opportunity to make some phone calls and get to know Vermonters, and especially in the agritourism space like that, and ask them questions and pretend to be a potential visitor in a few different personas. So that has been really informative. And I should have said this in the very beginning, but there's a team of 4 people that are on this project. I'm the project manager, but we have 3 other of my colleagues at Banneken are participating in this marketing plan creation. And I just happen to be the one who's been able to do the virtual site visit. So I've been lucky in how we drew straws and I was the winner. And then finally, where we're at right now is the reporting and strategy development. So we're putting all of the inputs into an interim report, inputs from phase 1 and phase 2, to create an interim report to showcase all the data and the analysis. And then we're going to be creating the marketing plan. The complete marketing plan is set for completion at the end of January. So that's where we're at. We're at the star. If you go, so far, in our phase 1 or phase 2, I guess I should say, what have we heard? Change the slide. Yep. We asked a lot of questions, but this is just high level. What are the main opportunities for agritourism in Vermont? What's the low-hanging fruit? And what people had said is Vermont's primary visitor draw is outdoor recreation, be it skiing, hiking, cycling, so soft adventure experiences. And the rural landscapes are obviously a defining attractor and set the stage for other activities and offer a point of differentiation. The people we talked to agreed that there are opportunities to link agritourism and outdoor tourism, which is, I think, fairly obvious, but there's opportunities to expand on this more. And that food and drink experiences, especially those centered on cheese, maple, and craft alcohol, were noted as important add-ons once visitors are in the state. And key strengths for agritourism include the diversity of high quality experiences on offer, along with a commitment to place shown by local small business owners. More interesting, perhaps, is what is holding the sector back and what do we need to focus on to improve?
Next slide.
And slide, please. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I was.
So, what the stakeholders had noted is that there is a lack of dedicated marketing funding for agritourism and low prioritization of the sector from tourism organizations. So there's really an opportunity to collaborate further and to work with those and to partner further and to include agritourism marketing within Vermont's overall marketing more. And also, I think as we've talked about in this conversation so far, that the term agritourism has come up about what, how best to define what it is that we're doing, and the experiences around food and where food comes from in Vermont is a question mark. How best to define that in marketing and consumer marketing. That's something that has come up and it's been debated during this process. But really to use a broad definition of agritourism, we should definitely be including off-farm offerings like farmers markets and fairs. And that agritourism may not be a compelling name. Other descriptive terms to illustrate the food and farm connection should be explored. And that several agritourism marketing activities are already underway in the state, and alignment between these along with data collection and monitoring will be essential for success. And at the business level, it may be strategic to offer capacity building opportunities that will equip business owners to reinforce key messages. And I think that what Lisa was saying, that's very, very clearly a winner. And this is an obvious need given the stat of what was it? 53% said they would like marketing support, something like that. So, what we're doing with this information is taking it and making recommendations to what we should prioritize in the marketing plan, the statewide marketing plan going forward.
Okay, next. Actually, Jillian,
Yes.
I have a question for you. In the conversations with folks that you've had, and I thought this would be good for folks to hear, what surprised you the most?
With my secret shopper exercise, we do work with destinations all over the world, and some are more market ready than others. And Vermont is just so sophisticated. And what surprised the business owners and the experiences are just really well delivered. And what surprised me the most, or sort of what impressed me the most, but I was also surprised, I guess, is in conversation with just calling up businesses and saying, I'm a family with small kids, I'm a mom with small kids, and planning a little trip to Vermont in the fall, and this is what I'm sort of looking for. Just how collaborative the responses were. It was not talking about would talk about the experiences in the actual business, of course, but they would be so careful and to talk about all of the experiences that were available, that relevant experiences that were available in the area. So there's a cross marketing at the ground level is happening already, and that is a big win. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I just wanted everyone to know that, like, basically it seemed like in general, everyone was very willing to give you examples of other folks to go visit business wise, and it was very the business community was very supportive of each other.
Yeah, and one of what you really want in tourism, especially in sustainable tourism, is to be distributing your visitors across the destination, and not to just be congregated in certain, there could be demand generators, we call them, or big key assets, or places that people can mostly be very aware of, assets and experiences in a place that are really well known, and experiences in places that are less well known. But you want to encourage those visitors who are going to the places that are well known to also go to the places that are less well known. And at the business level, that the business level, that's where the encouragement of the distribution can happen. And it's sometimes there's some training involved to get businesses to talk about other businesses. And there's capacity. And in this case with Vermont, with Vermont's agritourism industry, it's happening already organically, and it's a beautiful thing. And I think it should be celebrated. And I think that that collaboration and spirit of collaboration is what's needed, because this is a statewide marketing strategy. So it's really giving all the business owners tools to be able to more succinctly describe and talk about Vermont's experiences, agritourism experiences, and so that there's more of a, I guess, seamless story and brand. But that really requires collaboration. And if you have that at the ground level already, you know, you're in good shape.
Cool. All right, you want me to go to the next slide?
Yeah, and just to keep, this is about messaging. Get that the next slide.
Okay.
So a big part, so this is a marketing strategy, but a big element of this strategy and what we sort of our mandate is to create key messages for use for Dig in Vermont, but also for the businesses and other organizations that are charged with marketing agritourism in Vermont. And so what our findings were that there's VFN's messaging to its members is really clearly defined. And we know we've written here what the purpose of VFN is, but there is room for improvement with Dig in Vermont's key messages. They're less defined across all channels. And so there's really an opportunity to improve that, so that's good. This is one of the reasons we're doing this work, is to find ways to improve and expand on the storytelling messaging around Vermont's agritourism beyond communications of agritourism's events and attractions. And I don't remember who was talking about the definition of agritourism earlier, but I loved the definition of it being the sort of the purpose. It's purposeful. It's not you're on a farm and you're having an experience. That's not what agritourism is. Agritourism has to be about the purpose behind why you're there and what the farms are doing to preserve the land. And I think that that's really important, and it's something that maybe isn't being portrayed so well in the messaging currently. So that's one of the findings that we made so far. Slide, please.
Yep. There we go.
And so the workshop that we conducted with stakeholders was all about messaging. It was designed to help encourage stakeholders to think about Vermont agritourism messaging and communications from an alternative angle and provide them with new ways of considering the consumer in messaging. The workshop was broken into 3 group exercises, and key informants were divided in Zoom breakout rooms, and they reported back to the overall group on their answers and outcomes from each of the exercises. And potential key messages and positioning themes were identified in the workshop. And the next slide will tell us about the takeaways. So the primary takeaway was that Vermont agritourism is all about growth of agricultural products, growth of knowledge, personal growth through authentic experiences, personal growth through social exchanges. The participants identified a persona for Vermont agritourism as someone who was closely connected to the earth, both the soil and the planet, and wanted to share the connection and knowledge with others. Participants also expressed a keen interest in seeing more messaging and initiatives that highlight Vermont agritourism's potential to express inclusivity and sharing, a destination experience that welcomes everyone from those people who come from generations of farmers to those who have never been on a farm before. That came up a lot in the workshop, and who want to discover more about where their food comes from, or simply want to experience the agricultural world for the first time. And overall, the participants believe that while outdoor recreation is the leading visitor draw for Vermont, there is potential in messaging to better position Vermont's agritourism offering as an obvious and valuable complementary piece to outdoor recreation, especially considering those visitors drawn to Vermont for outdoor recreation are likely to fit a significant portion of the same visitor profile as visitors interested in agritourism.
Okay. Oh, next slide.
Yep, next slide.
All right, there we go.
So we did take a look, of course, at the main marketing channels and their performance, and I have outlined that in the next slide. I don't think we want to get into all of this, just to overview that the main channels we've reviewed, being the Dig in Vermont website. We also have done reviews of a sampling of website reviews of the businesses, Fresh Feed newsletter, which Tara mentioned in the beginning, the blogs, Instagram and Facebook channels, key social media channels, and media relations coverage about Vermont agritourism. And just overall, there's opportunities there's opportunities to increase engagement and increase awareness in each of these channels. I think that we've noted here, the blogs are wonderful and they're published frequently, they're purposeful content, and we can pull a lot of key messaging from those blogs. So well done there. Overall, just with the Vermont Dig in Vermont website, we've seen that there's an opportunity to increase storytelling and key message delivery, which we mentioned a couple slides before, and really improve the overall visitor flow to improve visitors' ability to find what they're looking for, because there's a higher than average bounce rate on that website. And the newsletter is going out frequently. There is an opportunity to use this as a place for data collection, because there's a gap in understanding of the visitor profile for the agritourism visitor profile in Vermont, and we can use those as tools carefully, strategically, so we're not annoying our visitors or our potential visitors. And then with Instagram and Facebook, I mean, it's often the case that low engagement is that there's opportunity to increase engagement. Social media is a tough one. It's very, very important, but it's tough to get sort of that conversion and lead generation. But it's very, very important. It's becoming even more important, especially at the business level. For example, where I am in Prince Edward County, it's the number one tool that businesses use for marketing. And if it's done well, it can be very powerful. And then media, we did take a deep dive into the media coverage of Vermont's agritourism offering, and found that, of course, it is limited. It is limited. It has a lot of opportunity for more media coverage, but the coverage that exists is really it reinforces the brand, and it's very I think powerful and complementary, and there could be ways to strategically incorporate media relations into the overall marketing mix more, but you need to find ways to fund that, and potentially that is through grants or also cooperatives with businesses. And finally, what's next is we're putting all of this into an interim report for the steering committee and Tara to review by November 26th, and we'll have the marketing plan December 10th, and then the final marketing plan on the end of January.
All right. I'm going to stop my share for a moment here. There we go. Thank you so much. Jillian, that was really, it's always interesting to hear about process and messaging and research. And I guess, what questions do folks have? On one hand, for all of this to work with for this to be a successful process, what does that mean? Or not this, the plan, the process, but like after that, right? What does, actually, Kelly, you just popped into my view. You're involved with a farm, right, Sun Valley, but also your Vermont Sustainable Jobs from Farm to Plate. What sort of tools or collateral or material, what would you need to have this, to be able to hook into this, or to what would we need to do to help you further communicate about Vermont agritourism after this plan is completed? That's a
Good
lot, I
question.
know.
Yeah, that's a big question, Tara.
I do.
On the Farm to Plate Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund end of things, it would, like, we have a marketing communicators community of practice Facebook group that we are all kind of barely using. You know, I don't know if it's that. I mean, we're all, I think, disliking Facebook more, but some place where we could actually be sharing, you know, what we're promoting and coordinating from a communicator's perspective. A lot of times, like for me, you know, we still have the Rooted in Vermont channels that we're using, social media channels. So using those hashtags and tagging that so that I can share content there. But mostly it's me trying to find that content and read your newsletters, everyone else's newsletters, and coordinate that way. So having a coordinated effort where things come to me in a way where I can see what's happening without me seeking them out. I feel like I spend a lot of time seeking it out, and then including it in like the Farm to Plate e-news and getting the word about things. And that's not always the case, but it's like for the lesser things that are not like Open Farm Week, we obviously know what that's coming. Yeah. It's something that's coming every year, but these smaller campaigns and seasonal events that are happening that I would like to help promote from the Farm to Plate perspective and from Rooted in Vermont, just knowing about them is part of the battle, I feel like. And then from a farm perspective, knowing about the opportunities is always helpful. Again, Open Farm Week is very clear how to sign up for it and things like that. I know that you did like a hot chocolate promotion a couple of years ago, or I think it was during COVID, because
it was like prime, like January 2020, or yeah, was it 2021? I'm sorry, 2020. It's all a blur.
I feel like it was during COVID. Maybe it wasn't.
Like prime winter COVID time.
And so anyways, there was like a hot chocolate promotion, which was really fun. And I saw that through, say, your Instagram. And then, you know, my farm has been doing a home delivery service since March 2020, and partnering with other partner farms. So we had like Sweet Rowan Farmstead milk on our thing. So like we jumped into that and promoted the milk. Not that they're going to buy the milk from us, they might buy it from another storefront. But we're able to kind of like tap into some of the campaigns and seasonality types of items. So knowing more of like those littler things to get like those farms signed up. I know like we are a Fresh Network farm, to get like some sort of like farmer communication so that we know, okay, this is coming up, or here's a calendar for the year that says, here's the items that you can plug into this year. Maybe we send it out in January so that way everyone can kind of go, oh yeah, that's something my farm does. I can help promote that and this month.
Yeah, that's quite helpful. You know, I think that we're all, there's so many things going on, right? And yeah. But I also want to mention to your note, I guess, and as part of this grant too, is over in 2022, we're going to be having as part of this grant process, we're going to be having 4 networking events around the state. And at those points, we'll be getting the word out. But I also think now that we can get out in person, you know, you mentioned the food communicators group, and like, I know, and I think everyone feels this way. It's like, I know when I see you through Zoom and I'm like, gosh, we need to get together and just chat stuff, you know? And
I had you on my to-do list, Tara, for like 4 months.
Yeah. But so. Yeah. But I also wonder, like other folks of, you know, and that was exactly, I was hoping to get that information. What does everyone else have to say? Anything, you know, some ideas, or, you know, large brands, large farm brands, small ones, any comments on what we've talked about so far? Anything?
The only other thing that I wanted to add to my definition, and Tara I mean, Lisa pretty well did it with her data. She's a great data person. But in addition to what I said, the other part is that it needs to be value added for the farmer, or they're not going to do it. And so I think that that's the other thing. And when people were listing what they do specifically, I didn't mean to denigrate that, because those are the things that are value added for each individual farm. And it needs to enhance what the farm is already doing in some sort of economic manner, or it's not going to be sustainable. And that is the responsibility of the farm, but I think that's also where support can come in from the state or from grants or from outside systems. One of them that's phenomenal is just the legislature passing the liability law. You know, being able to put that up on your farm, you might not think about how that translates into economics, but if you had a lawsuit because of some kind of injury, it could be the demise of everything. So that was a huge thing to do. I have people who come here and take pictures of that posted because they want to go back to their state and say, look what Vermont is doing to support its farmers and agritourism. But then there are other, maybe more direct ways to support agritourism. Some is through the social media, getting ideas out, but maybe some grants for people who are going to pivot to finding a way to do what I described, which is help people appreciate the land, help people understand their stewardship, but make it also economically viable. I just wanted to add that because I think the altruistic part of it is what I was talking about originally, but in order for people to invest and put the time into it and continue to do it, it has to have some sort of value add to the farm.
No, certainly. And I also want to mention, so there are a lot of farms in Vermont, farms in Vermont that offer agritourism or activities, whether it be on-farm events or classes or, different ways to hook in. Then there are farms who don't. But I think in general, there's opportunity. This connects with them too. And you were talking about financial, that bottom line, being sustainable financially. But as an example, and I'm just going to say Open Farm Week right now because it's kind of it's in my mind about specific like businesses working with farms and so last year, well actually this year 2021, we had a couple of new ways of farms to hook into Open Farm Week and there's like if there's like I'll use Blake Hill Preserves as an example. They wanted to be involved in Open Farm Week. And normally it's open farms, right? We go to farms, but they wanted to be able to do like a jam class and bring the farms who are providing the berries and talk about it in that way. I think that there's a lot of great ways for crossover in that kind of situation. I'm looking at in chat here. Mako, how do you pronounce your name? Can you, Future of Ag Commission?
Yeah, it's Miyako. Sorry.
Mako, I'm sorry, excuse me. I please, people, Pereira, so many vowels in my name. So. Could you talk a little bit about what your chat there?
Yeah, well, there's those few ideas. I think part of it is that I was thinking about I think about more of solutions in immersive content and this is the work I've been doing on several different organizations. But also I was a former market director at the Burlington Farmers Market. So when I think about, things about like agritourism, the definition of that, it's sort of it doesn't fit for a Vermont, for a way to describe Vermont in a lot of ways. And in the sense that it's a term, but it's a term that does it's hard to say, but I like to say, talking about Vermont, we have a je ne sais quoi. We have something very special. And I think we can make our own terms of what that experience is. But I also think there's so much advantage. You'll see a lot of grassroots people across the state who have grown quite an influence, on people's impressions of Vermont through social media, through the events they run. And I think there's so much opportunity to collaborate and kind of really get that message out even further of how special Vermont is. I mean, people know it, but the point of engagement is, it's not that you want people to passively visit Vermont and passively see agriculture. We want them to be engaged. And so the proof of engagement is more than just images, but it comes through how they talk about the farms in a different way, right? How they look at things. And in the working with the governor's Future of Ag Commission, this is a conversation we had constantly about marketing and messaging and communication. And the one lift, and I think is brought up here over through the last 2 days, is I think the people who have the time to focus on the communication need to help supply and help work with the farmers to integrate their voices, but then do that heavy lift of the marketing, because farmers don't have time for marketing. And that is the first thing they will let go in their budgets. Yeah. And because they don't see the ROI immediately in making those impressions. And I think there's a lot to be done by organizations like your own and other places that where we can collaborate and really empower and do that heavy lift of the marketing and storytelling.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, exactly. And to the point of like agritourism and how people, there are people who come, there are folks who visit our state, and even folks within the state who are exploring different reasons. They don't self-identify sometimes, as I'm interested, agritourism, or I think that I mentioned before about the ski people, and the people travel. They need to eat. Where does the food come from? How do we connect and bring that that greater messaging and to the folks who are coming for one reason, but they're hooking into culinary tourism, let's say, or they're if they're going on a last year we started a new program during Open Farm Week that's gotten larger, the Farm Trail Network. So where some of those Farm Trail Network farms, you can go cross-country skiing on them. I think that, and you're exactly right about farms and marketing and time and all of that. If you have one type of job that is very specific, that's a non-marketing job, let's say farms, you're growing things, you're doing also raising animals, and maybe you don't lead with marketing, and that's what you do, and you need the support of everyone else who's talking it up. Anyway, that, yeah, I any other last words? I'm please feel free to, I'll put my email in chat. And there we go. But I'm most appreciative that you joined for this discussion. And I feel like there's so much happening in Vermont agritourism, so much great potential. And I can talk about Lisa, we talked, the international workshop on agritourism is coming to Vermont in August. Lisa, you can put that information in chat if you like to. So the world sees what we're doing here, and so I think that it will be also we'll be able to talk about it. But it's really great to be able to share what we've been working on, and because really I just want to work with you all. and we can all work together and make this a little stronger. And anyway, that's what I get to say. So thank you all. And like I said, any questions or anything, please feel free to send an email. And I wouldn't be able to end this without saying, please sign up for our Fresh Feed newsletter on Dig In. It comes out monthly and with all the news, well, as much news as we can find, I guess, about agritourism and things to do in Vermont. So we'll be, once we have a final report plan, we'll be getting that word out about the final information and moving ahead. So thank you all so much. We'll talk to you later then. I guess that's it. Kelly? Is that how we end?
Yeah, I just put the local food count reveal link into the chat. So you can jump right into that and make sure Jake's excited about telling everybody what's going on. And then we're going to have the dairy plenary panel after that, and then closing remarks. There'll be a little break in between. So make sure you jump over to there. You can actually click on it right from here and jump over. And the videos for this will be up hopefully mid next week. We're going to do some editing to cut out like the initial time for the recording, things like that, the beginning and end. And then I'll have those up on the site. So if there's anything that you want to like rewind to and check out, you'll be able to see too. But thank you all for joining. This was like great conversation and really great interaction in the chat. So really impressive what everybody's doing in the state for agritourism. And looking forward to seeing the finished marketing plan. I can't wait to tap into it. So thanks.
Thank you. And I didn't even get to mention that priority strategy number 16 I printed out for Farm to Plate is marketing, coordinated marketing efforts. So we're even hitting that priority strategy with this. So there you go.
Awesome. Well, have a great day, everybody. Jump and make sure you go into that local food count reveal.
Awesome. Thank
Bye.
you all.
Thank you.